Welcome to the Rich Mind Podcast.
So can you imagine someone coming to us these days on the Rich Mind Podcast and saying self-help books are a scam?
It just sounds bad and incongruent with what we're talking about.
It's time to break free from their illusion, is this person. We've gone to a website. This is an article, folks, from theprint.in. This is an article we found that was proclaiming that self-help books are a scam. And Greg and I are here to have a little bit of a discussion about that, give you maybe some takeaways and what we think, what we believe. You can take it. If you think self-help books are a scam, then we're probably not the right podcast for you. But at the same time, if you're looking to find some different challenging ideas, some different challenging concepts, then yeah, this conversation that Greg and I are about to have is going to be a lot of fun. So what are your thoughts when I read the headline there that self-help books are a scam? What are your thoughts?
To me, it just, it makes me cringe, honestly, because of our beliefs. But, the author is the author and it's her opinion, obviously. So I think we're going to dive into, her article, what may be right with the article, what may be differing from our opinions in the article. So again, it's just perspective, but we are, I think, more leaning towards the, the fact that self-help books are not a scam, but we'll get into it.
So, and right below the headline here, if you're watching this on video, I've got the article pulled up. But right below the headline, it says books by self-help authors and we won't name any names at this point, but self-help authors out there promote toxic positivity, hustle culture, and phony motivation, depending on their angle. It's just a brief mental high. And even just reading that, the toxic positivities, hustle culture, phony motivation, depending on their angle. So depending on their angle, when I say that, what thoughts come to mind on that?
Yeah, depending on their angle. I know she listed a few things, and we can start with toxic positivity, because I've heard this term recently on some other podcasts. And
have you? I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it in that way. Maybe it's because I'm not listening to people that don't think that the personal development piece is so important, right? So that's interesting. You've heard that out there. Yeah,
I've heard it recently, and examples of this I think are like, just be happy, or it could be worse. And, this isn't the best solution, in my opinion, and the author is correct on some things, but the author fails to see the other side, which is, let's kind of talk about what the author mentioned about the movie and the book, The Secret. I think that'll be a great example of toxic positivity. Now, have you read the book, The Secret, or seen the movie, Randy?
I have seen the movie multiple times. I probably have read the book at some point as well. But yeah, I'm definitely familiar with the program itself for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read the book. I've only seen the movie maybe like 2 or 3 times. And, my summation of the movie is it's centered around the law of attraction and manifestation, which is basically, what thoughts, what vibes, and what actions you put into your mind and out into the world the world will reflect that back to you. So if you think of yourself as acting kindly to yourself and others will act kindly towards you. I think that's kind of the summation of the movie, in my opinion anyway. And while she's right about the fact that the movie left out some parts to it, like having to take action and do the work, I think that's the biggest flaw of the movie, because I think the movie puts it out there just saying, if you think about it, then it's automatically going to happen, which is not necessarily the case. You definitely have to take action. You have to take some steps. So just thinking about it is not going to come true.
So affirmations, what are your thoughts on affirmations? I think that, like you just said, and that was my takeaway from the Secret, the book as well. But I still see and listen to folks that will just say that if you just sit and think and chant affirmations, basically that your whole life is going to change. And I believe that if you can, this is what I think, and I'm just curious what you think, Greg, that affirmations are important. What you say to yourself, how you speak to yourself is very, very important. But just to sit and think that, yeah, if I just say this over and over and over and over and over, that all of a sudden, without having to do anything, just life is going to start happening, right? Money is just going to start flowing into my bank account, and I'm not going to have to work anymore. And all this belly fat's just going to fall off of me because I'm thinking that I'm going to get skinny. Yeah, that's where the conflict comes in. I think that's pretty much what she's trying to describe here in this article. Any thoughts on that with affirmations?
Yeah, so affirmations, in the beginning, I was kind of unsure if I wanted to do them or their effectiveness. But like you said, just saying, the I am statements or whatever kind of affirmations you want to create for yourself, just saying them is not going to change your life. It might not even change your day because let's face it, we're in the real world and bad things are going to happen. Negative things are going to happen to us. But I think having those affirmations, I do affirmations currently. I do them in the morning just to kind of set up my day. But I also understand that I need to take action on those same affirmations, right? If, say, I'm going to have a successful day, I have to go out there and take action to have those successful days and, weeks and months and everything. So, but yeah, understanding that it's just not saying the words. And I believe there's some science behind this as well. But again, this is, personal. And if some people really thrive with affirmations, then keep going with them. If they're not working for you for whatever reason, then stop.
Or change them. I say I am statements to myself all the time. I try to speak positivity. So it's not that I don't use affirmations, because I absolutely do. But I think what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you use it almost to set up your day in a different mindset or in a different framework, or even within your own mind, right? The way you're looking at your perception of your reality, right? You're trying to see it in a different way through these affirmations, or through thinking of myself as being courageous, of being strong, of being able to hit record and talk to the camera today and talk to the folks out there in the wonderful world of the Rich Mind podcast, right? It's having the positive mindset, which stems along with that personal development piece of the peak framework that we talked about in the previous episode. Without those affirmations, it's going to be difficult. But to think that only affirmations is going to be a life-changing thing, which is what I think I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's where the disconnect comes. And I think that you said the secret was, it was a good movie, great content. You can get a lot from it, but if you're just listening, sitting and chanting and thinking, and you've got to get out there and do something for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where the A in the peak comes from, right? Is action, and you need to take action. And speaking personally, I've been guilty of reading many self-help books in the past and not taking action on the content, just absorbing the information, which, knowledge is great, but without action, it's just knowledge. And, you're maybe a little bit smarter or book smart. I've heard that term being thrown around, but if you're not taking action with it, then it's just knowledge in your head and you're not really going to improve your life the way you want to.
Do you have a practice? Meaning, so I try to get quiet, meaning I'll just get with myself. I talk a lot about the podcast about journaling, right? I try to get in the practice of getting thoughts out of my own mind, getting ideas. I've mentioned talking about the podcast, right? The idea for the podcast was nothing more than a brainstorming session I had with myself, just trying to get some ideas out of my mind. Do you have something like that you do for yourself as far as putting the book away, right? You can consume, but at the same time, if you're not doing something with that information, it's like it's not really doing much for you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So one tip that I give to our listeners is, when reading a self-help book, because I didn't do this in the beginning and I'm faulting myself for doing this, but, now I can do this moving forward, is, you can ask yourself some questions before you read specifically a self-help book. Is, what do I want to get out of this book? What actions am I going to take after I read this book with the new information that I just acquired? And that kind of goes along with the third one is, what goals now can I set now that I've read this book and I have this information? So I do this. This works for me. When I read books, I take a lot of notes. Either, usually I write them down. Sometimes I'll put them in the notes app on my computer. But just so I have a reference so I can go back to, Atomic Habits and say, all right, what are the main points of Atomic Habits that I can really pull out so I can refresh my brain when I'm creating goals for the next year. So hopefully that helps. Those are the three questions that I ask. Do you have anything to add to that, Randy, or what do you do?
So at the very beginning, do you have any thoughts on if somebody's just getting started, they're very early on in their journey, they don't necessarily even know what they want at this point? That's probably been the biggest question that I've had to answer and ask of myself is, what do I truly want? But allow myself then to go down the path of that discovery. It's very challenging, or it has been for me, to question myself, okay, what is it that I truly want? But without that answer, or at least some kind of clarity to that answer, I think that information just upon information is almost like it becomes clutter, meaning it doesn't have a true source of meaning to you. So let me just, we're talking about taking action. I just want to keep using the podcast as the idea. But if I knew that I wanted to create a podcast, I knew that I was capable, confident enough, but I didn't know what to do. That, along with some affirmations of keeping myself taking action, that along figuring out through different resources. So I guess that's the point I wanted to make. You'll discover the resources from a personal development standpoint that you need in the moment based on where direction you're taking. What goal are you trying to achieve? If you're just trying to get better, let's just say you're just struggling with a negative mindset, meaning you're just in a bad mood. I'll be honest, when I was in my retail days, I literally was in a bad mood a lot. And that means even at home, it was not good. It's not that I was abusive by any means, but I just wasn't pleasant to be around. I was just grumpy. The personal development work helped me work through those things. So if that's where you're at, if that's what you're trying to accomplish, then I think maybe a big, wide spectrum of personal development content is great. But if you know something specific that you're trying to achieve, that will give you some of that clarity of that's where you're going to resonate with certain authors, certain topics, whether it's a business book, whether it's just a self-help, mental, personal development type book. That's been my experience, is that as the closer I've gotten honed in on my final outcome, that peak that I'm trying to reach, that's given me the clarity to siphon through a lot of the, I don't say noise because it's not noise. It's great stuff. It's just maybe I don't need it at that time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think in the beginning, like you mentioned, you definitely cast a wide net just to find out what sparks my interest. And a lot of people, when you ask them, including myself at certain times, like, what do you want for your life? What does your ideal life look like? Sometimes it's hard to answer. You can easily answer, what don't you want for your life? Oh, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't never want to do that. But what do you want? It's like, oh, then it stops people in their tracks, including myself. So until you get real clarity on, let's say a business idea, like, what do you want for your business, Randy? It's like, oh, well, I never thought about that. All right, well, that's going to point us in a lot of different directions until you narrow it down to maybe 2 ideas, and then we can flesh those out. The only other thing I would say with that is, and I'm a big fan of this, but it's the who. It's the who in your life. And that's why I really like, the mastermind that you and I joined and met at. There was people from all walks of life. It wasn't just people who were successful in business and that was it. There were people who were, successful in their relationships, and they taught others how to be successful in their relationships, real estate, personal development. And that was great because being in that room, you can walk up to anybody on the break and say, hey, I have a relationship question. Can you point me in the right direction? What's a good book that I can read to, do X, Y, and Z? So again, for me, a lot of it goes back to the who, because you'll be really surprised when you ask somebody a question, especially if you know that they're more experienced than you and you pose them as an expert. People love to help other people, especially in this world. So you ask them a question, their face is going to light up because they just helped you out and, set you on another path. And the who is a big part of my success, honestly.
So how hard was that? That spurred off all kinds of questions in my mind, because that was something I struggled with at the beginning. I was always a do-it-yourself kind of guy. I was always put your head down, grind, figure it out. Asking for help was like, you don't do that. I mean, I was just taught that. It's like, you don't ask for help. You just figure it out. You could be in the biggest trouble of your life. And yeah, you just put, like I said, you put your head down and you keep grinding, you keep trying to figure it out. But you're right. That's been my experience as well, as I've gotten myself into rooms, bigger rooms, with great people, fantastic folks, like you said, from all walks of life. They all want to help. And it's like, really? So it's like when I first started having that experience, I was like, really? You just want to help? I mean, come on. I mean, what do you want? What are you trying to get from me here? But it's true. And that's where we really want to come across here even today with the content we're trying to produce. We want to try to help as much as we possibly can and give back. But that's my question to you is, did you have that thought or experience when you were first started to get exposed to this? I don't know if the personal development area, right? With different people. We talked about the mastermind. What were your thoughts then?
Yeah, I honestly, thinking back, 5-6 years ago, I was always curious about different industries and how I could, especially in the beginning, the first 6 months of personal development, because there's so much information coming in. Like you said, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But then once it gets overwhelming, you can take one area, let's say health and fitness, and you can narrow that down and, say, all right, well, what do I really want for my health and fitness? And then I'm standing in a room of successful individuals. Okay, who can I ask a really specific question about, macronutrients to, or, what I should be putting in my body, right? And like you said, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I have a question about real estate, I'd be happy to help them out because I love talking about real estate investing. So I assume that that person I'm asking that health and fitness question, he or she is going to be like, oh yeah, let's talk about this. What are your goals? Like, they're going to be lit up by that because they're helping me. And that's the attitude that I have when I'm asking somebody for help. It's not, what can I get from you? It's also, I'm giving them the opportunity to shine and give me knowledge and maybe sell me something on the back end if they have something. If it's, just a free conversation or whatever that looks like, then we're just having a conversation and he or she's just trying to help me out.
You'd be amazed about what you can get from just conversations like that, right? Somebody will give you a resource. Once again, we're trying to be a resource for folks. They'll give you an idea. They'll give you, go check this person out or go watch or read this or something like that, right? And it's amazing how quickly you can accelerate your path, the direction you're headed with just some information like that. And that's where it becomes a lot of fun. That's been my experience as well. So folks, if you've got questions for us, Greg and I, as you mentioned, Greg is very knowledgeable in the world of real estate. He's been a realtor for many years, but he's also been a real estate investor for many years as well. I would consider myself more of the business building. I've built a business on Amazon, multiple $1 million on Amazon. Marketing. I love marketing. If you have interest in creating a podcast, feel free to reach out to us at that info@richmind.co and let us know your questions, your concerns. Even if you have a topic for the podcast that you want us to dive into, don't hesitate to leave us that information as well. We just want to try to get to know you, where you're at, your challenges. Maybe you agree or disagree with what Greg and I are saying today, which is fine. That's kind of the whole point. We just want to try to bring some different ideas, some conflicting narratives maybe that have been spread that may or may not be true for you, for us, and we definitely want to just have a conversation about that. So any other thoughts about that article, that personal development books are a scam, self-help books are a scam? Any more thoughts about that, Greg?
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say about that, I know at the end of the article, she basically mentioned that, so it says, consuming self-help advice gives the illusion of action, but real change requires sustained, often uncomfortable effort. Reading about solutions doesn't equate to actually solving the root cause of emotional distress, which is why many people find themselves trapped in a cycle of endless self-improvement without tangible results. So this was something that I read, and I didn't exactly agree with 100% agree with this because I don't like, the phrase trapped in a cycle of endless self-improvement without tangible results. I feel
it just sounds awful. I mean, it sounds like, why in the world would you want to set yourself up with this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's, taking action, she mentioned it in the article itself is what you need to do, but she doesn't really explain that very well in the main body of the article. So that was where I saw a little disconnect for me. And I think it kind of proves our point a little bit of, you need to take action to do these things.
Without action, folks, nothing's going to happen. As I mentioned in the previous episode, I believe, and if I haven't, I'll mention it right now, but it's the decision first. You make the decision to move towards the peak that you're looking for, right? Whatever goal you've set for yourself, it's the decision that starts first. And once you make that decision, action. Yeah, that's kind of the big takeaway we want to have with you today, is that it requires action to make things happen. You're not going to know all the steps. You're not going to know exactly where to go. You're not going to know exactly who to speak to, but simple steps. It doesn't have to be overwhelming at all. As I mentioned, it could be just downloading a podcast. It could be hopping on the internet these days and just searching for a specific term. It can be as simple as finding Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale or anything by Jim Rohn or Greg's book. We've talked about Greg's book, Teen Money Mindset. You can grab a copy of that. That would be a great resource. We also have another great resource that we'd love to offer you as well on the richmind.co. If you head over there today, above the fold, right there on the front page, we've got a download that is free for you that we would love for you to grab a hold of and start the process of building your personal development, right? Building this entrepreneurial journey. And that's the title of the download, is that from dead-end job to entrepreneurial freedom. And that's kind of the whole idea, is it's a 5-step guide that's going to help you in the process of understanding the different concepts that we've spoken about already here in the first couple of episodes. Using that peak framework, understanding that personal development is super important. Self-education, you've got to keep working on your self-education. Action, we've got to beat that one down here today. Action, you've got to take action. And then you need to find wisdom. Find wisdom from folks that are further along the path than you are. That might be Greg and I. It might be someone else. But the point is that you're always seeking that knowledge and wisdom from other people to then continue on this path. And that's what we want to try to encourage you to do today. So, Greg, man, I think we're going to wind this one up here today. Is there anything else you want to leave the folks with here as we start to wrap this one up today?
Sounds good. I think we dropped a lot of wisdom and knowledge in this one. So I'm really excited to see our listeners take some action out there.
So here's another teaser, folks. Next episode, we're going to talk about personal brands. Have you ever thought about building a personal brand? What does that even make you feel like? I mean, can you imagine jumping on camera? Can you imagine getting on social? Can you imagine putting your thoughts out there in the world and actually creating a name for yourself in the internet space? Whatever topic it is, that's the beauty of a personal brand. It can be about whatever topic you want. For myself, with the Rich Mind, and the Rich Mind brand for myself was the personal development piece with the financial education. But, personal brands, are they overrated? I don't know. Greg, what do you think?
I don't know. I guess we'll kind of debate that a little bit next time. And, you're the marketing expert, so I'm going to rely probably a little bit more on you for that conversation, but it's going to be a fun one.
We're going to dive into if personal brands are overrated or not in the next episode. So we invite you to join us back here on the next episode of the Rich Mind podcast. Make sure you head out there to richmind.co and grab that free report or free guide. That will definitely help you on the path of personal development moving forward and really get your 2025 here off to a great start. Greg and I thank you for your attention. Feel free to head over to the podcast platform of your choice. Leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate that as well. Let us know what you think. As I mentioned with the pivot here with the podcast, let us know what you think. If you like it, if you don't like it, if you think we suck, that's fine too. We'll keep trying to get better, right? That's the whole point. We'll always try to keep improving and try to deliver as much value to you as we possibly can. So go out there, focus on being great, have a fantastic day, and let's talk about personal brands in the next episode. We look forward to talking to you about it then. All right, bye now.
Thank you for joining us today on the Rich Mind podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it with someone you know. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Rich Mind podcast on your favorite platform and never miss an episode. Want to dive deeper into transforming your financial mindset? Visit our website to download your free 5-step guide titled From Dead-End Job to Entrepreneurial Freedom, designed to help you conquer your fears and start on your entrepreneurial path with confidence. One last thing. Don't ever forget that your mind is the first place where wealth is created. Keep dreaming big, take action, and together, let's build wealth, a legacy, and a life we love. Until next time.